Live.
We might be live. If we are live, please let me know that we are live in the comments.
There's at least three people watching, so.
Okay, great.
Now 426. That jumped up quickly.
Wow. Yeah. If we are live, I am Brandon, your author for the evening. Tonight, I am signing what I believe are pages from Unfettered 3. It's one of Sean Speakman's books. Sean, if you are watching, we are finally doing them. They look really nice because they have a whole bunch of signatures by all the other people who are in the collection. So we've got Tad Williams, Deborah Wolf. So Sean himself has not signed them yet. I assume that's last. Ken Scholes, who is a great guy. Ramon. Just lots of people I know. Oh, carry on. Lots of great authors in this collection. Our good friend Mr. Aurelian is in this as well. So. This is for whoever bought the special signed edition. These take forever because Mr. Speakman sends them to every one of the authors on the list, and we each take a turn with them and try very hard not to sign on the wrong line. It does happen sometimes. And get these back. So eventually, after they've traveled around the country 4 or 5 times, they can get bound into a book, and then people can have those. I have heard that some collections like this with signed editions are very prized because once in a while there'll be some authors such as Stephen King being in one of these, and the Stephen King collectors go crazy for trying to get a hold of the ones that have Stephen King's signature, and so they vanish very quickly. We don't have Stephen King, but it is fun to see some of these. There was one that they did called Legends that had Robert Jordan in it, and a lot of really great luminaries in the sci-fi fantasy field. That one of the collector's edition of that is great because you have all of those signatures.
So I'm reading all of your comments telling me that Brandon is only coming in through your left ear. I am working on that.
Oh.
I'm doing a slightly different setup here
Oh.
because every time we've tried to do this before, we get really fuzzy sound.
So this is a new problem for you to work on,
yes.
Adam. So this is left ear Brandon coming into you.
It should be 0.
Right ear Brandon has gone on vacation. He is off on a trip somewhere. We don't know where. These Thursdays, man.
There's always something.
I've been running all day, doing meeting after meeting after meeting. That's what I do on Thursdays. I don't get to write books on Thursdays. I get to do all the other stuff that we hope to clear off my desk so that all the other days I can actually work on stories. So I did, it was fun. I did just get to...
The demo went well today?
The demo was fun, yeah. The theater recalibration, like it is, each time it's just a little bit better, so.
Wow, I'm excited.
So let us know if that's any better, you guys.
Okay,
Let's
we
see
might
if
be back. We might be back.
Yeah, we did lose audio for a minute.
But Adam did that on purpose to try to fix it.
And please let us know if you're hearing us in both ears.
Is right ear Brandon back from vacation yet or not?
I think we're in both ears.
Okay. You cannot be rid of me that quickly.
Both now, okay.
Both ears.
Problem solved. I did a thing.
You did a thing. Well done, Adam.
Yes, thank you, everyone. You're welcome.
Adam, who has had to learn all this on the fly. Adam's background is selling signs.
Well, yeah, that and publicity, not AV stuff by a mile.
Before I hired you, you were selling signs, and then we turned you into a publicist by sending you to New York to train with publicity, and now we are forcing you to learn how to be a cameraman as well. So A man of many talents, all of them forced upon him by us.
Yeah, so if it sounds great and looks great, please thank me. If it doesn't, I'm going to blame everyone else.
Yeah, it's Kellen's fault.
Oh,
Yeah.
Kellen,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah,
And she's
Kellen.
not here, so it's
Why Kellen said it to only be in one ear? People need to
that's
be
so strange of
asking
her.
why she would do that. Yeah. She's. Oh, is she there?
Oh, she's listening.
Oh well. I mean, good job, Kellen, as always.
No, she's like, it's always my fault. She just said that in the chat.
Yep. Well, Kellen is the beta reader who forces me to make all the unpopular decisions. She goes in and rewrites the book. So if there's a decision that has been made regarding one of my books that you guys don't like, Kellen actually did that secretly. She somehow gets a hold of the proofs during the copy edit phase and changes it so your favorite characters die.
So now we're looking at Brandon's sound. If Brandon's too loud, please let me know. I'm adjusting it a little bit, but obviously I don't want to damage anyone's eardrums who
Yep.
has earbuds in.
Why don't you throw a question at me,
Well,
Adam?
Eden Smith right here says, you might not ever see this, but you inspired me to be an author, so thank you.
Woo, that is one of the best compliments. If I'm going to rank the best compliments you can give an author, probably number one is, you've inspired me to write. I would say that number two is, you made me stay up way too late. I always like it when someone comes and is like, I had work the next day. How dare you? That compliment's always very fun. There is always the, would you like to meet my son Kaladin? Which is also quite the compliment.
No one's done that with Moash yet?
No one's
That's
done that
very
with Moash,
surprising.
yeah. I get Kaladin's the one I get because it works the best in a lot of different languages. So I do get a decent number of Vins, but more pet Vins than people Vins. So there are some people Vins as well. I think the fact that Vin Diesel's around, being cool, makes it more acceptable as a name.
Elijah Taylor says, Mistborn murdered my sleep schedule.
Well, there we go. I had never realized that Vin Diesel stars in the Fast and the Furious movies, and a VIN number is associated with cars. Do you know what a VIN number is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, every car.
I didn't even think about
I
that.
have never
It took
connected
me a
that.
second to process
Yeah.
what you were trying to say.
Every car has a VIN number, which is a vehicle identification number, I believe, that is etched into like the windows or something like that. That's a unique identifier. And Vin Diesel is his last name, obviously being Diesel, is the perfect star. I'm sure that's been noted before, but I'd never noted it. I actually started watching the Fast and the Furious movies we've gotten through, so I'd say it's about 2 months ago after writing group, because I watched the first one, thought it was decent, heard that the others were bad, never watched any of the rest of them, but then had a friend that said, no, once they become heist films, they get good in a stupid way. And so we just skipped the middle ones and went and watched number 5, and I can agree, they are good in the stupidest of ways.
I just saw a comment. I'm trying to find it because it scrolls pretty fast, but it said Moash is the Umbridge in your
Yes.
series. And I think
Oh.
that's a pretty good
That-
compliment because Umbridge was so well written
No,
that
Umbridge is amazing. Yeah.
just the worst person on earth.
Yep.
Her and Joffrey.
Yeah, well. What else can you throw at me, Adam?
Okay, so I did questions a little bit differently this time than I
Ooh.
have in the past. So I did a Reddit post. You can find the link on Brandon's social media if you want to go add a question or upvote questions you like. But we're going to be going down from the most upvoted questions.
Okay.
So we get people answers they really want.
Right.
and
One of these times we should do like that whole super chat thing and then just give the super chat money to charity
Yeah,
or
we could do
something.
that.
Then that way
That would
we
be fun.
can, so a variety of ways to get your questions answered seems like a good idea.
I agree. So I'm going to update this Reddit thread. And I want to thank the wonderful mods.
Is
who
this
were
on
going through,
Brandon Sanderson?
This is on Brandon
Yeah.
Sanderson. The mods who were going through and removing all the spoilery questions or the questions that were deep lore, because that is
Yes.
not what the stream is for.
Nope. We occasionally do the spoiler and deep lore streams. Most of these are more relaxed than
Yes. I think we decided that we're going to do the spoiler streams twice a year.
that. Twice a year.
The next one's going to be around Christmas.
Yep. Yeah. We'll probably do one around Christmas every time and then one in the summer
One in
every
the
time.
summer,
So
yeah.
something like that.
Okay, so this first question from the Reddit newbie, I need to make sure that I have this sorted by top.
So, not controversial.
Okay, this one is from Fake Messiah.
Uh-huh.
What are your thoughts so far on the Wheel of Time Season 1 trailer, and how do you think the first season is going to be received?
So this is a delicate question for me to answer because I'm a producer on the show. I have been on set and I've read all the scripts. How do I think? I think that the trailer looks great. And it was very cool to read the scenes and then see the trailer come out. I'm very excited. I have said before, and I try to, I try not to say too much, right? This is not, it's not my place to reveal things, right, about the Wheel of Time show. I'm a resource to Rafe, the producer. And it is his show with me there to give him just kind of give him the voice of fandom. And I will spend a lot of my time saying, here's what I think fans will think about this, and here as a writer is what I think about it as well. And what I have said is the Wheel of Time TV show, I think the episodes and the writing are excellent. I have really enjoyed reading them. I think they do a very good job, and I think the quality is very high. I think that the changes are larger than with Game of Thrones, as I've said, and that it would be best if fans view this adaptation as a different turning of the wheel from the books, because it is more adapted. I've used the Lord of the Rings films as an example of the level of adaptation, where enormous sections of the Lord of the Rings had to be cut, other character arcs had to be changed, and things like that. That is what we're looking at on this, and I am very pleased as a fan and as a writer with the quality of content that I have read. There are no episodes that I felt were bad, and there's at least one 10 out of 10 as far as television that I have ever read is. So, that was a weirdly constructed sentence, but thank you very much, Hazel. But yes, so what do I think? I think that people are going to love it. The thing that if you don't love it, it's probably going to be because the showrunners have changed things equivalent to, for instance, taking out the Scouring of the Shire, or changing the character arc for Aragorn a little bit, and things like that. So, there you go. That is about all I can say, other than it's nice to see some actual special effects, because I have to imagine them when I'm reading the scripts and just hope that they look good, because the effects on a fantasy property can really make or break it, and the visuals in the trailer looked great. So I am pleased.
And one update for the chats. If you go to the description, I put the Reddit thread in there if you want to go add a question or upvote your question, so we can make sure we get all these answered that you want. So you may need to refresh your browser to see that, because I just added it. But I want to make sure everyone has a chance to upvote the question.
And I do, as we do more of these streams, want to find ways to interact with the chat some more.
Yeah.
We are working on that. We might just have to have people highlight things to be read by Adam or things like that, so that I hear some of the feedback that's going on, or something like that.
Because if we had the chat up here, you would not be able to read it.
I would not be able to read it. It goes by too quickly. But I would like. We are working on that. That's something like...
It's something that's on my list
Yes.
of 1 million things
Yes.
to do, but it is something that's on our radar.
But this is a great way to do it this time, Adam, so good job.
Of course. This next one is from Argent Sun,
Oh, hey, Argent. How you doing, man?
who
This
says,
is a friend of ours.
friend of the program.
Yeah, well, just friend.
Is that Evgeny?
I believe that's
The
Evgeny.
picture
so.
looks like Evgeny.
Yeah, so that's, yeah. So, Evgeny, welcome to, yeah.
Oh, it is him.
Yeah.
Okay. So he likes this AMA format, which means we will stick with it just because he said so.
Oh, yes. Well, you know. Evgeny's one of those guys who's been there for quite a long time and been an advocate, but not, you know, like Evgeny's very. How can I explain Evgeny? He is not a sycophant, right? He is just a person who appreciates the stories, and I really enjoy having Evgeny in the fandom. So
Yeah,
thanks,
he was
Evgeny.
a wonderful person to chat with at JordanCon. It was a good time. Anyway, getting to his question, he says, what's something from your books, character, creature, scene, etc., you haven't seen any good art of, but wish there was some good art of? You know, in case
so-
there was some commissioning thing
Yeah.
to happen.
I have mentioned some of these before, and I'm sure there is great art out there that I just haven't seen. But when I was working on Rhythm of War, one of the shots from a theoretical trailer that'll probably never exist is I guess no this. Was this Oathbringer? This might have actually been Oathbringer. But a shot of Moash kneeling in front of one of the Heavenly Ones with their clothing billowing around them and things like that. Just that shot is one of those shots that I have imagined. And it's not like I can even pick to exactly where in the books that I imagine this, but, you know, kind of that sort of thing. Him, like, just completely worn out and falling at the feet, so to speak, in kind of almost a false god sort of way. And then just that image of the figure where there's a little bit of a almost devilish feel to the listeners, but then elevated into the sky with the angelic posture and clothing. I like that contrast. I think it's really interesting. So, not that people want to be doing lots of pictures of Moash, but you know, there you go.
He has a fan group, I guess you'd call it.
Yes, you would call it a fan group. Yes, yes.
Evgeny says, interesting. ...
Yes, interesting. ... Is there another one? That one is one I've mentioned before. So, is there something else that I want to see that I haven't seen a good shot of? The problem is the ones I want to see, people tend to do. So yeah, I don't think that I have seen a shot. Well, that's a spoiler, so I will not mention that one.
Marco from Facebook is hoping that you will say hi to Chile, or Chile.
Chile. Hey, Chile. How are you guys doing? Thank you for watching. Anyone from Chile? So one of these days, I'm going to get down and see you. Not sure when it'll be, but one of these days. If Argentina will share me when I go to Argentina.
Edge Dancer 93 from Twitch is hoping to see more of Lasting Integrity.
Okay.
Anyway, just reading some of the chat.
Yeah, I like hearing, throwing things like that at me is good. I had a lot of fun writing Lasting Integrity.
Okay, so the Reddit newbie says, is there a detail event in your books that people praise you for adding, but is actually accidental?
Oh, all the time. Happens all the time. But I'm not sure if I can pick out one specifically, a detail that I've added. Some of them are half intentional, right? Like, I wrote Elantris as a kind of stealth zombie novel, right? I've talked about that before. And then got a lot of thank yous from people with chronic pain for raising awareness about what it feels like to have chronic pain. And of course I wrote about someone, and I knew I was writing about someone whose pain did not fade. But I was a new author. I had not connected that things that I would write, such as that, would be so meaningful to people who read them as kind of a raising awareness sort of thing. And so those sorts of details, like I've gotten better at doing intentionally, shall we say, but particularly in my early works, I'm like, oh, yes, I totally did that on purpose. Yeah.
Kuroin Faruno says, "Hey, Brandon, how are you doing these days?"
Hey, Kunoin?
Kuroin Faruno, yeah.
I am doing really well. Other than the fact that this is Thursday and I've been running all day from appointment to appointment, then I am doing great. Everything is good in the world of the Brandon Sanderson business. I'm very excited for the Cytonic release and the novellas that are coming. I think that this is just a really fun thing that we're doing. For those who don't know, I mean, I assume the people on this stream already know, but if you didn't know, we have this thing coming up where I'm trying something a little bit more like they do with like the current Marvel television shows and things like that, where we have Cytonic the book, but 2 months before we have a novella starring FM from the Skyward series, and then a next one starring Alanique, and then we have the novel release, and then we have a novella about Jorgen, and it's like 4 months, so it's kind of like how you get an episode a week, except this is a kind of a 4-month extravaganza where you get 3 rather long novellas that are almost novel length themselves, and the mainline novel coming out one after another. And I'm hoping that people enjoy this. I'm really excited by the idea. I think it fills out the world. I think Jancy and I work really well together. My worry is, like, when we went to the publisher, they're like, oh, this doesn't really work. You can't really do like they do on television. People read the first one, and even if they like it, they just don't get around to picking up the second one. And so their worry is that this will actually have a steep drop-off, and that even the novel will have a steep drop-off because of it. But I am more confident that that people are interested in having more of an experience. It is a really big experiment on our part. The publisher pushed a ton to do them as a collection after the novel comes out, and to not do them in this 4-step format, to the point that we were just gonna be like, well, we'll just do them on our own, and the publisher's like, well, we really want to work with you on this, so we'll do it your way. But I know they're really worried. So,
My favorite part about Kuroin Faruno's question is someone gave him the Wholesome Award
well, he
for
deserves.
asking it. Yeah, I thought it was a wonderful gesture by whoever gave it to him. And then another commenter, I'm not going to try and say the name, from YouTube, said it was chronic pain is life-changing, and Elantris was soothing somehow. So they just want to let you know. And obviously the Moash army came out when I said he had a fan group.
Yes.
And Paper Piper says, to the people saying Moash did nothing wrong, why do you choose to be evil? And that just made me chuckle. So thank you, Paper Piper.
Well, I mean, there's an entire Reddit thing called Thanos did nothing wrong, which...
I think there's a subreddit.
Subreddit, I mean, yeah. And it's a very big subreddit. It's for Marvel memes, and so...
Well, no, I think there's a copycat for Moash now.
Oh, there is? Oh, okay.
I think. I'm not sure.
So I don't know, that whole creme posting world, I don't see quite as much of as I think a lot of the fans do, but I see it now and then. I'm amused by it.
So Zane Barrow says, hey, Brandon, would you ever consider creating a sport in one of your series, similar to a Quidditch thing, selling jersey and such? Mistborn Dodgeball is the example he gives.
Yes, in fact, if the previous Wax and Wayne book has little hints about this, and the new one has another step forward. Obviously, Arithmetist is this, but they mean in the Cosmere and more of a formalized sport. So for those who know, part of the reason I wrote The Arithmetist is I'm like, I want to do a book where they use the magic for some sort of game or sport. But you can anticipate in Era 3 fully metallurgic arts enhanced sports teams. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That sounds very violent.
Yes. Well.
Pewter MMA. Okay. Iron Eyes 52 says, what noble houses were Kel and Marsh born into?
Boy, I'm
Wants
not
to
gonna.
know their surname.
I can't canonize that yet. I've got it somewhere. Let's raffo that for now. That's the sort of thing that I need to run past continuity, make sure that I haven't contradicted it in later books. We should release that though. It does make sense that people would want to know.
So Iron Eyes 52, what I need you to do is open up a Word document and type in Raffo and collect your digital Raffo card when you gaze upon it. Divarap says, what's Dalinar's name? What does Dalinar's name mean?
Boy, can I look that up? Let me see if I can look that up.
Like how Kaladin means born unto eternity.
Yes. Let me open. Let me see. Let me see if I can get this easy. All right. I'm gonna go to this folder.
Oh, people are asking me to turn up my mic. Let me know if this gets any better, you guys.
Which folder do I go to? I don't go to that folder. I go to Stormlight Wiki. All right. And I go to data. I hope this isn't giving people information on how to hack us. Don't hack us, please. Pretty please.
I just want to thank Camposteria 7 for telling me that I'm fine. It's not relation to anything personal, just my mic levels, I believe.
Oh, yes.
But I'm going to interpret it other ways.
We all know.
Good job.
I do not want to open that with Zoom. That is a text file. I want to open that with a text thing.
And Hazel, for some reason, just typed Adam. Why?
My text is finished. I'm working on it.
It's very strange.
It does not.
Tim Eddington from Facebook says Dalinar means badass.
Yes.
And I agree with that.
I need to be able to open this with the notepad.
And now there's an Adam chain. Just people typing in Adam. So Hazel, thank you for this.
Open with. There we go. Oh, no! Give me more options. Android is. This is why I like Windows, right? I can just be to Windows. No, you're opening it with this program. No, I don't want you to choose which thing. I don't think I can make this work on Android, guys. That's gonna have to be something that I would need to open on my laptop and double check, because once again, I need to make sure that it fits with continuity. I'm opening up the wiki that Karen has stamped. I don't know. You can text.
Stick with badass.
You can text Karen.
I'll text
People
Karen.
ask me this a lot, and I keep forgetting to canonize it for people. So you can text Karen, see if Karen can open up that file, open up and tell us. So we will get you an answer on that one.
Text sent. We'll see what.
Yeah, see if Karen's around.
She says. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Bruno 1018 says, "Hey Brandon,
Hey.
Has a fan question or theory ever changed your plans for the Cosmere? For example, you've changed something because the fans guessed it, or changed something after being inspired by a question or theory?"
Yes, this does happen. It's mostly when people ask more kind of open-ended questions. I don't change things because people guess them. That is not a method. I mean, therein lies madness, right? I lay my foreshadowing in my books intentionally. And if people are guessing things, but it's not spoiling their experience, that just means I've done my job right. The majority of things like this are things that I want well foreshadowed. But people do ask questions about characters, about aspects of them I've never thought of. Like Someone once said, hey, I'm getting some bisexual vibes from Shalon. I'm like, yeah, actually, I'm writing some bisexual vibes from Shalon, but I had not actually really thought that. Does that make sense? And so fans kind of pushing me to think about things and whatnot does change my interaction with the stories. What I'm generally careful not to do is to, you want to avoid that sense of, oh, well, they guessed it, so I have to twist it even twistier. And I know of times or can guess at times where authors have done that, and I don't like the result, right? If you guess what's happening, then that just means we've both done our job right. And the people who don't want to guess generally don't guess, and it's fine. So, I mean, there are some pretty big surprises for some people in the Stormlight Archive that were extremely well foreshadowed from the beginning, and people were guessing them after the first book. And that just means, I feel like that is an aspect of laying proper foreshadowing. And so no. Now, if it spoils the experience, if things are just so obvious that it makes for a bad book, then yes. But that's through the process of beta reading, I'll get beta readers, and generally, if something is just way too obvious, I will tweak how I'm presenting it, and that's kind of the same thing, but it's more institutionalized. Like the whole beta reading thing is, let's see what fans think of this book and tweak it so that it works better. So, yeah.
A question I really liked from the chat from Elijah Stormblessed says, does anyone other than Lift use starving as a swear word, or did she make it up?
She made it up. That
It's
is
very fitting.
just Lift being Lift. And she, yeah. There are a lot of things in these books that are just Lift things, and that's one of them.
Jason Lundy from the chat says, if we shattered Atomosium, how many shards would there be, and what would their names be? Infinite pieces, because of my
Infinite
mass.
You might enjoy that, because there could be like one shard of atom that just golfs.
Oh, my word, yes. And he would hate himself.
Yeah.
It's greatest love and, yes, Jane, greatest love, and my greatest enemy.
Atom has been shattered into one shard so far, and his name is Quill.
Yes, and he's wonderful. So, I'm actually going to refresh this just in case there's changes.
That's Adam's son, by the way. Who,
Yes.
I was amused by at lunch today. He seems to like Raoul better than you.
He has favorites. So,
Yes.
Rahul's one, Lion is one, and your dad is one.
Okay.
Those three people he will pick over Jane and I every time.
Yep. He was just running to our friend Raoul, yeah. Every chance he got. So.
Okay, so let me find out where we were.
All right, here we are. By the way, for those wondering, I am signing Mistborn Leatherbounds. Ooh,
We didn't finish that.
we didn't finish those. Okay.
Jason Lundy says, Order of the Golf Swingers, and I agree. Those will be my knights.
Notice he didn't say Order of the Golf Hitters, just swingers.
No, swingers, yep. So Karen just got back to me relating to Dalinar's name and what it means, and she
Yeah.
says, we know that Nar means like unto, but not much more.
Oh, so I
that's
have
all
not
we have.
canonized that yet for her. Okay, well, I will do that because I know what it means, and we'll get in the wiki and make sure it's not replacing another word that is already canonized as another sound, and then we'll get that out to people. So there we go.
Okay, so Mistradiant, I can read sometimes. Any teasing for the Lost Metal? It's been a while since the last Mistborn novel, and we're so excited for it.
Well, did we record me reading the prologue of that?
Yes, it's already.
It's on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, so you can go.
So if you haven't seen that, then you may go and read that. There will be another reading of this happening at the Cytonic release in some form or another. Another reading from Wax and Wayne. The trick is finding ones that aren't spoilery to read. But what else is going on in Wax and Wayne? I mean, I think I've said this before, so it might not be new to you, but it is 50% longer than the other Wax and Wayne books, and that includes more viewpoints from Steris and Wayne than we have had in previous books, but also more viewpoints from everybody. So, Wax and Wayne 4 will be of particular interest to people who enjoy the variety of magics and cultures in the Cosmere, not just Scadrial.
So this next question is going to be for Kara.
What?
Any updates on leather-bound restock?
That is a very weighted question.
Yes.
For a link, Tora, thank you.
Well, yeah, so we do have an update that we will be talking about, but they have been delayed.
Leatherbounds have been delayed.
Yes.
Yeah.
We ran into a few shipping issues. A lot of companies are dealing with shipping issues
Yes,
right
because
now.
of COVID.
Yeah,
And can I talk about the other thing that's caused delay? Do you guys mind?
I think,
Yeah.
I think you'd probably be fine.
Yeah.
We'll have samples of them later on.
Yeah, we'll have
But
samples.
You're welcome to talk
So,
about it.
month or two ago, Isaac calls me, or during our normal meeting, Isaac says, well, something has happened. The leather that we use for the leather bounds, the specific shade was called Corona. And they canceled that shade of leather. They didn't just rename it, which would have been, I think, the nicer, better, smarter thing to do. They just completely canceled it. We had picked the one shade that was called Corona, which, I mean, it's a good name for a color and things like that. But so they're like, well, sorry, we can't do this. And they sent us another option, and it was just way different. We're like, no, you cannot use this. We need to do some quality control here and make it look as close as we can to in case people have bought two and are buying the third and things like that. And so we've been working on that, and we will have those samples that we can show to people eventually.
We did find one.
We did find one that looks like, to me, it looks the same.
Yeah.
Isaac can tell the difference, so some of you will be able to tell the difference. It looked the same to me, but we had to stop them from just doing them all in the one they picked, which was very noticeably different, and work with them to find something that looked much better and closer, because we don't want you to have, an unmatching set. And so we will have that up so that everybody knows what they're ordering when we get these, and that is part of what's caused the delay.
And good news is all of our Wave Kings leather bounds have been received and started being shipped out again today.
Oh, okay.
So our Wave Kings leather bounds,
So these are the ones which
these are the last of the Kickstarter.
the last of the Kickstarter.
Kickstarter.
So if you haven't gotten your Kickstarter Leatherbound Wave
It
Kings,
should be in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
those are all being shipped.
Yep.
Yay.
That is good news.
That is good news. So even that last portion of Wave Kings people have been waiting for a long time, you're getting your book. So that means that we might have them in stock for Christmas for those who didn't get it on the Kickstarter, but we can't promise it because people from the Kickstarter get their books first, and then we see what we've got able. We use a lot of time at the bindery. They both love and hate us, right? Because we are monopolizing like an entire press to make these things. So.
And Alyssa from the YouTube chat, yes, that is Mistborn Era 1 we're talking about for the color issue.
Yes, color issue. So Mistborn Era 2 we haven't announced yet. Those we'll be doing next year, and we're still figuring out what we want to do on those. We actually might have a poll on that eventually, because one of the big questions that Isaac and Adam and I, because Adam's a leatherbound collector, so he kind of weighs in on this for us, is do we want Era 2 to use the same color and the same design as Era 1? And my initial thought was, yeah, we want to use the same color. But then Adam points out, are you sure it might just look like a big long list of encyclopedias once you have 16 of those on your shelf? And I'm like, oh yeah, maybe it would be nice to have a slight style change between, so maybe different colors with a similar design or something. We might do a poll on it. But that's what we're trying to decide right now. We have like the art and the interior design kind of all coming together. We just have to decide what we want those to look like, but those won't be till next year. So
Yeah, some people are correcting you on the 16. You mean 13?
oh,
volumes?
so it would be 13 unless I add. I've talked about this before.
Oh, unless you add
Someone
another
pointed
era.
out that if I add a cyberpunk one,
Yeah.
which I've talked about before, and it's a trilogy, there will be 16 Mistborn novels, which seems
Yay.
really appropriate, right?
It does, and that would be amazing.
And so I've mentioned that before. That's not a big reveal, but I've said I kind of want to do a cyberpunk one. We'll see. And then people are like, oh, if you do, then I'm like, oh man.
Yeah,
that gets
just spend a weekend. You'll just knock it out.
yeah, yeah, man, yeah. You know how many, yeah.
One of my favorite comments, and I don't have the writer's name anymore, but they were talking about Isaac being able to differentiate the colors, and they said he reached the second heightening.
Yes,
And
yes.
I thought that was appropriate.
Yes,
Yeah.
Isaac definitely lives at a different heightening from me when it comes to color and stuff. The thing that kind of one of the things we're trying to do is we're trying to canonize what colon blue looks like, right? And what's really difficult is Isaac's like, is it more like this or more like this? And when you put the blues together, they change each other's color, right? And I'll be like, oh, this one. And then he'll put it in isolation. I'm like, ew, that doesn't look like it at all. And he's like, well, it's the same color, but it's not next to two other ones. And I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah, brains are weird.
Yes, what it is. And so, and apparently there's an anime or a manga it's probably an anime because they're in color, where people dress in a kind of a bright blue and white outfit that's militaristic that is at a lot of the conventions. And he's like, we want to not have to look like them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, it should look like the way I envision it. And if I envision it the same way that this other creator envisioned it, that just means, hey, great, we have similar
Great
tastes.
minds think alike.
But we're not sure. The colon blue is probably a kind of darker, more realistic color than the anime one, which goes for kind of the bright blues that work very well on the screen, but are not as realistic for a historical dye. So yeah. So that's just one of those things that I have a list of them. A bunch of them to be showing around, and probably not to you guys. There's just too many little fiddly bits on this, but we want to just canonize a colon blue, right? So all the stuff you got to do. We've been branding lately. Isaac and I have been talking about. We're like, wow, we should have like a brand, right? Like, Marvel has a brand. You know what the Marvel logo and things like that. What is ours? So we've been working on that a lot as well. It's more relevant if movies ever get made, but
Yeah, and a lot of people are guessing Full Metal Alchemist.
it might be Full Metal
Might be- yeah,
Alchemist. Yeah.
I've heard of it, but I'm not.
I
big
actually,
into the anime.
I'm not like Full Metal Alchemist is the one anime that I know I should watch and haven't, right? Because multiples of people who I trust have told me you will love this, Brandon. They do magic the Brandon way. And so Brotherhood, which is the remake or whatever, is what I'm told I should watch. But man, finding time to watch a television show, I prefer to pick films because they're beginning, middle, and end in 2 hours or 2.5 hours, rather than, now you are committing to 8 seasons of something. So
Hannah Riel, I'm sure I'm butchering that, says, as an artist, I was impressed with how well you described the Shalon drawing process. How many artists did you talk to get that just right?
So that one I was able to do on my own. I knew in college I had already designed Shalon and various other artist characters, and I specifically went and took art classes. I was terrible at it, but I took all the art classes I could fit into my schedule so that I would at least have a working knowledge of visual arts. And so I'm able to do this. And then, of course, I have lots of artists on staff and friends who are part of the beta readers who do help me tweak, who mention, hey, tweak this, change this. But that's one that is not so hard for me because of personal experience.
Itai Anyway, Atai from the YouTube chat says, you have no right to criticize to committing to a TV show since you are writing the Cosmere.
Hey, hey.
I hope they were saying that in jest. I'm going to
yeah.
interpret it that way.
Yes, I am committed to writing the Cosmeres, which means it leaves less space in my life. You guys get to, you know how much faster it is for you to read one of these things than it takes me to create them? It is, I'd stay ahead of you folks, which I can't even really do.
Yeah,
but trying to stay ahead of you folks is quite the challenge.
Well, probably impossible.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel when someone says, oh, I stayed up for 3 days and I read this book when you just spent 18 months?
I think it's cool, right? Because they're that engaged in it. But at the same time, the next question is, when's the next one? I'm like, man, 18 months shrunk into 3 days. I cannot keep ahead of you. But that's good. You have plenty of time to read other excellent authors. It would be a sad world if you read only Brandon Sanderson, because there are so many wonderful things out there.
And I forgot to ask the second half of a previous question. They were hoping to get an update on the White Sand Omnibus, and I don't know if we have any.
I don't know if we have an update. I've seen the publisher came through with their plan, and I know that Isaac is making the final last tweaks he can to it before it goes to press, and so we are very close, and it is coming. I think you guys are really going to like it. Isaac has slaved over this to try to bring it more in line with Cosmere continuity and the way that we wanted the visuals to work. And White Sand was a learning experience. The White Sand Omnibus is much more of a canon experience. It's almost like the original White Sands. You supported us in an alpha version of it. So yeah, I have no specific update, but I know it's really close.
Kellen sent me a text message, which I'm going to read just because
Oh,
of
no.
how absurd it is. And she said, Thomas Cadwell says, Adam, your voice reminds me of several angels singing at once.
That's all.
So strange.
I think that sending Adam texts of cool things that the staff see.
Yeah, maybe we start doing that instead of questions.
We still should do the questions, but
I'm
comments
saying
you
in
see
addition.
that you want to send to Adam Kellen, please feel free. If you are a person who has access to Adam's phone number, then
It is on silent, thankfully. It always is. I don't understand people who have ringtones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Will we get copyright struck if you play my ringtone?
it's probably short enough. Probably not.
Yeah. I actually
You want me to give it a call?
I finally put a ringtone on. I did it last week because I wanted to put it. Give me a second here to
Yep,
actually
you're fine.
turn the sound up. I wanted to do it on my wife's phone because I have a history of going and doing goofy things to her phone. But instead, I made it my ringtone, and I'm going to assign it to her once I get around to doing that. But right now, it's just my general ringtone. So this is my ringtone. Adam's calling me. I love that movie. So eventually that's going to be my wife's ringtone, but I will never hear it because who has ringtones on these days? I only turn them on if I'm wanting an emergent, or if there's some very important call that I know I can't miss. So
Now we're going to turn into a quick review channel. Kyle Halgerson wants to know how you're liking the Galaxy Fold.
I love the Galaxy Fold. This is I am not endorsed by Samsung. They annoy me a ton with some of their software stuff and things, but I have to say this phone is amazing. I use it as a tablet as often as I use it as a phone. 50-50. It has replaced having to have a tablet. And one thing is, for a lot of people, I think it would be too heavy. I always carry my phone in my inside jacket pocket, and I'm used to it being heavy because I carry it with my wallet is attached to it and things like that. I am totally fine having. Basically, I would rather carry around a tablet with me everywhere that is occasionally a phone as vice versa. And how wonderful it is to be able to be like, oh, let me open this up and show you something. Or gaming on this, so much better than on a regular phone. Anyway.
Yeah, I remember back when I first started with you 7 years ago.
Yes.
You were using that one Google phone that they stopped making that you absolutely loved.
My favorite then, it was actually a tablet that you could have be a phone, right? It was a phablet, and it was a 7-inch tablet. And I actually just carried that in my coat pocket. It fit barely in to my pocket. I just like having a tablet on hand. If I'm going to take notes, or if I'm going to do a game, play a game, or if I'm going to show somebody something, I really want to have that. But if I want to look up something quick, I want to be able to do this, right? Pull it open.
Nexus
just go.
7, that's right.
Yeah, the Nexus 7. And so I am maybe a narrow market. I have always wanted another like 7-inch phablet or thing like that, and this gives me both at once. So I hope that they never stop making these. And the crease is not a crease. Like, I've had this for at least a year now.
Yeah, pretty close.
And that I open and close it all the time, and it has not had any problems. It's almost invisible when you're looking right at it. So, yeah, really, really fun for gaming.
So, Frenziest says, it's been said that Dave Bautista is your choice to play Dalinar in a live-action Stormlight Archive.
Yeah. No, let's roll back and say, my choice for someone to play live-action Dalinar is a person that the casting director picks based on their experience. I would love to see Dave Bautista try out for that role. I am not a casting director. I'm not going to pick anybody, if that makes sense. I believe in the power of the casting director to find the people that I would not have thought of to be in a film. But Dave Bautista is definitely somebody, I'm looking forward to seeing him in Dune, to see how he performs in Dune, in kind of a role that has some similarities.
I am very excited for that. It looks incredible.
Yeah.
I think it just came out maybe last week. I think I saw it on Daniel Green's channel that they're going to turn that into a trilogy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, Dune?
So
I thought, like, Dune is so easy to make into 2, right? Dune should be 2. If I were plotting Dune as a screenwriter myself, if you guys haven't read Dune, Dune has an intermission in the middle, basically. It's one of these books, it's like, we stop and then we come back later. And it really breaks into 2 films and 2 stories. It's almost like 2 books stapled together. 3, I don't know how you would do that as easily. So,
yeah, I know that I think he said, Denis Villeneuve said that the second one was going to be from, I can't remember the actress's name.
Chani?
She has one name. What is
Yeah,
her
yeah,
name?
yeah. But the
I actually haven't read the book, so I don't know
Okay.
the character's
Yes.
name. But it's going to be from her POV. Which,
Okay.
But I think I heard about it being turned into a trilogy.
Okay. Well, you know,
Zendaya, thank you, Evgeny.
if there's a movie, the book that can handle that, it would be Dune. Dune is not The Hobbit, in that I love The Hobbit, but 3 movies out of The Hobbit is an enormous stretch. 3 movies out of Dune is not. I would do 2, but you know, Denis knows his stuff and makes good films. So.
Cinematography, he's one of the best for me. And to C'est moi Lafayette from the YouTube chat, no, I will not sing for you. That is not what I am here for.
I have sung on stream before.
Yes, you
so
are a braver person
You
than I
can
am.
go back and see Brandon's dynamic rendition of Son Toki, the traditional Korean song.
And Darcy Cole's like, your request has been seen. And yes. Yes, and I'm getting chastised for not having read Dune. It is on my list, as well as about 500 other books. I did finish Pratchett.
Yes.
I read through start to finish in about 4 months.
Dune is, in my opinion, the single greatest science fiction book ever written, right? So, yeah. It's hard to, favorites and whatnot, but my top 5 are that, Speaker for the Dead, and kind of the whole Enders thing, Foundation, Fire Upon the Deep, Those are.
I need
all
to
kind
read
of in
more
there.
Werner Venge,
Yeah.
because I've heard nothing but great things, but I haven't read too much of the big classic
Yeah.
ones. I've read like the really big ones, a lot of Asimov and
Have you
stuff
read
like that.
Foundation?
That's Foundation is the one series of his that I've not read.
Okay.
I've read basically everything else. It's up in my office. It's just too many things to read.
It's great. And Foundation is one of those ones that I don't think I think that people reading Dune could have the unfortunate experience that happens sometimes with reading classic science fiction and fantasy, in that it has been copied so much by other popular storytelling that you read it and it feels derivative, even though it was the thing that everyone copied, right? And I think you could have that experience like with Asimov's robot things. There is nothing like Foundation. I think that it is still, at least in my opinion, still a very fresh sort of thing. It's just it's a bizarre thing that really exists. It's a curiosity even that it exists. So.
And L. Rodriguez from the YouTube chat says open fan stuff, which
So
I want to address real quick, or you can.
I will
Okay.
address. So we are going to be doing the open fan mail stream for Halloween. I will be in costume. My wife will be here in costume opening the fan mail while I sign things, showing them to me and reading them to me. So you will get Brandon and Emily for our Halloween stream this year opening fan mail.
Yeah, we know we are very far behind.
We are very far
but
behind.
We will catch up on that stream.
Yep, we're just going to do a whole stream that is only fan mail, and we're going to get through as much of it as we can. And so, once again, we have an address you can send stuff to. It will be done in October, and the ones we don't get to, we won't wait till the next October. But also do know these are pre-screened, so you are not able to send something to me to get me in trouble on stream.
Yeah, I've heard too many nightmare stories.
Yes.
Daniel Green messaged me after we
Yeah.
first announced this.
Yeah.
Basically, or maybe it was just in the YouTube chat. He basically saying, "Oh no,
Yeah.
you guys don't know what you're getting yourself into."
No.
But we've covered ourselves.
We've covered that. So yes.
It'll be fun.
Obviously, what we're worried about is someone sending us like a picture that self-shreds or something like that, shockingly. That's probably, that's what we're worried about. We don't want that to happen.
Keith Church says, "I wish I could send you something, but it's a bit heavy." You don't need to. Tell us in the chat what it is, Keith, and that'll be good enough.
All right, so
Okay, so there is the second half of the question about Dave Bautista.
yes.
Are there any other actors that you currently have in your mind canon? Or that you-
People have really converted me to Lance Reddick for Sazed.
Oh, okay.
That was not in my head, but the fans have been persistent, and now it's hard to imagine anyone else.
He has a good voice for it.
Yeah. So there is that. I really don't have a lot of other people, though, right? Like, I have never been one who does a lot of fan casting, even, for my own books or for other things, because I believe in the power of, their casting directors, really good casting directors, are amazing. I would not have imagined anyone who ended up doing the new Star Trek movies, but that cast was just so good and so perfect that it was like I like seeing that. The people are experts in this, right? Like the Lord of the Rings films. People are really good. It's their entire job to figure out how to match actors to roles, and actors, turns out, are really good at being different types of people. And so
It's a novel idea.
So other than The Rock as Rock,
And Vin Diesel as Vin Diesel. Yeah. You can also say that for Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
I mean, he's almost always himself. It
No,
feels like.
The Rock as Rock.
Oh, I'm being.
Yes, I was joking.
Yes.
The Rock as Rock, which obviously is too perfect. But yeah.
So the only other person I can think of for Sazed is, and I don't know how to pronounce his name, but Digimon Hansu. If you're
Okay.
familiar with
I
him.
do.
Yeah, I think he would be fantastic. But Unger Games 12 from Twitch wants to know who Danny DeVito will be playing.
Oh, Danny DeVito. Yes. I saw a great D&D meme the other day where someone was like, Danny DeVito at this height and this weight is only a little bit off from being a D&D dwarf from D&D. And then they're like, they showed a shot from Always Sunny and a quote by him. They're like, this is my next character. Who will Danny DeVito be playing?
See, and I immediately went Lopin. But I think he's too old for Lopin. But, I think that would be fantastic.
I think maybe he will be playing Lift's pet bird. Yeah, I think that's not a bad match,
The Mink, people are saying in the chat, which I could see that as well.
Yeah.
Gaz, that's what Darcy Cole says.
They're being serious.
Yes. And I have other people agreeing with me for Lopin.
He would be actually he would be perfect as Felt.
Sabariel.
Oh yeah,
I could see that as well.
Felt's a really good match because I've kind of described him Danny DeVito-esque, and Felt is from Scadrial, so.
Oh man, it got buried. Someone said Blush Weaver.
Yeah, you win. You win.
That one wins for sure.
You win. Yep. Gold star. I wish we could add to like YouTube chat awards or things like that. Where like gold star, you have won.
I can add it to the screen, but
yeah.
It's.
So when they show up later on, we know that they've been given a gold star.
So Keith Church says, I would show it, but I can't show photos here. I do plan to send photos of the work I did instead for now.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool, that works.
We love that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Send them to mail@brandonsanderson.com, and we'll get them in front of Brandon.
Or if you want to just actually send physical photos.
Oh, that'll work as well.
For the fan mail opening. Yeah.
Or if you send digital photos, that'd be easier to show high quality. Anyway.
Yep.
Cool. Well, we can move on from that one then. That was fun.
As long as it's not something inappropriate, like dividing by 0, then. All right, next question.
Next one is from Next191. It says, one of the few criticisms of Rhythm of War is that more and more Stormlight Cosmere lore is getting pretty complicated, and it's harder and harder to follow along without understanding the whole Cosmere. Will this trend continue? Will we need a degree in Cosmerism to read Stormlight 10?
I try to write these scenes such that if you want to let your eyes glaze over and read kind of to the end of them, generally people summarize, this is what we need to do. This sort of stuff honestly goes back to Elantris, right? This sort of stuff is going to show up in a lot of the Cosmere books, and it is a fundamental tenet of how I'm creating the Cosmere. My goal is to not, Rhythm of War was definitely the pendulum as further along toward that aspect, with Navani being a main character, than a lot of them will be. But if we do write Chris stories, you're going to get a lot in the Chris stories. So all I will say is, don't interpret it as increasing in complexity the more the books are written. Interpret it as we get to characters that is relevant to, their sections are going to involve more of that than others. And so I don't see it, I see it increasing a little bit as we move along, but it really depends on who the characters are, what they're talking about, and things like this. My hope is that no, you do not need to. My hope is that you can, if it really is not your thing, skim those scenes, get an explanation at the end, and still know, okay, we need to do this thing. But what I don't want it to be is just technobabble also that does not fit into the structure and world building, right? And so it is a fine line to walk, and I would except, like, I think that criticism is valid of Rhythm of War, but it's one of those sort of things, like the first book having a steep learning curve, that is an aspect of the story that I'm trying to tell, rather than, yeah. So, I hope not. I hope you will not need one. This is something I am aware of, and we will see. We'll see. If it gets to be way too much, I think fans will let me know, and beta readers will then pick up on that and start warning me, maybe this is too much, Brandon. We'll see.
Can't Resist the Viz says, writing teachers frequently warn to, quote unquote, to not fall in love with your own writing. Do you ever write sentences or passages that are just too good to cut? Are there scenes that are so superb you bend the narrative to fit them?
Yes. I think this is an aspect of being an artist. Sometimes the audience is you, the artist. Now, you can go too far on this by including too much of it, so it becomes self-indulgent. But I think occasional self-indulgence is a good thing, because you are an audience for your storytelling. And what those writing professors are saying is, don't make your entire career and things built around the idea of only looking at what, you enjoying how it's going for yourself, because sometimes you are not as good at it as you think you are, and a scene just is not connecting. But it is okay to include things that are only there for you at the same time. So yes, I would say that sometimes I include things that are only there for me. A lot of the times, the things that I'm including are things that are there because I try to think like a lot of different people at once when I write a book. Not just the characters, but a lot of different types of fans. There are some readers for whom the Navani scenes in Rhythm of War are just gobbledygook, right? And there are some for whom those are their favorite parts of my writing. And my job is to make sure that everyone's favorite parts are there without being too annoying to the people who hate them. And I try to walk that balance. And my gut says that if there's something I just really love that other people are not going to get, that as long as it's not too obtrusive, then it's okay. I can give you an example, right? So there is a scene in Rhythm of War between Wit and Jasna. This scene has Wit doing a weird linguistic trick with his sentences that I'm not sure if people have figured out, but it is not just alliteration. It is deeper than that. And it is not something that you're supposed to pick up on. You're supposed to be able to feel like, oh yeah, Wit is doing something weird. He does weird stuff. But if you follow it, it follows a very it's like he's made his own poetic form and is trying to follow it. And the fun of this scene, for me, part of the fun of writing it is Jasna picking up on that, Jasna doing it as well, him, trying to constrain the conversation so they can make these little quips, her saying, please don't do this anymore, we got to really be serious, and him saying, okay, but then doing it anyway, more carefully and subtly, with the last sentence that he gives, which I don't think this is something that people are going to get, right? I didn't expect you, but it says something to me about Wit. He gave his word and he immediately broke it, right? Because it was too fun for him to not break it. He just had to see if he could break it in a way that Jasna couldn't see, right? And Wit is bored by normal human interactions, to the point that he must put constraints upon himself to keep himself engaged in normal conversations, even ones that are full of import and emotion where he maybe shouldn't be acting like this. And that is one of his failings. And these sorts of things are basically, like that one there, is mostly there for me. I don't think anyone will pick up on it other than something weird is happening. Maybe I'm wrong, and the Cosmere Nauts out there are like, oh, we got this exactly, Brandon. So I won't say what it is in case people want to actually figure out what the literary form he has created for himself to follow. But what they want to figure it out, what it is. But yeah, that's that sort of thing I do not cut as long as it's not too distracting. Once in a while it is too distracting, and so I do cut it. I made up a word in Wax and Wane that I really liked. Not a fantasy word, just like a derivation of another word, and the whole writing group hated it. And when I got back to it in revision, I'm like, all right, I'll just cut this. The whole writing group hated it, right? But sometimes I will if it's just too distracting. Sometimes I will leave it and be like, I'm creating a word here. You guys just deal with it. Yep, I'm running out of papers to sign, so we are almost through. We will ship these off to Mr. Speakman, the wonderful, magnificent man that he is, and he will send them to the next person in line. Maybe, I wonder who it'll be. Maybe it'll be Ramon. He lives in my region. Maybe he's doing this by region.
Nathaniel Yakov says, please have someone like the Lopen or Wit call Kaladin storm-stressed in one of the later books.
Oh, Kaladin storm-stressed, not bad. I should have stacked those. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That's pretty good. Thank you, ma'am.
So, us and Rufus say, who's the character that has most surprised you as you've written them?
Adolin. Just led to the Adolin experience is more. I've talked about this at length, though, right? That Adolin was not going to be as main a character in the Stormlight Archive as he has become. He is basically everybody else is where I intended them. Navani might have a slightly larger role than originally planned, but she was still planned to have a pretty decent sized role. It's Adolin that is that, but let's see, is there any others that I haven't said? Spook was that in Mistborn 3. Not part of the initial deep plan, but Wax and Wane is also, the whole book is kind of the whole series was not intended to be what it was, and I decided to make it this. But I don't. My characters don't surprise me in the same way that Discovery authors' characters do. I once had a professor who was like, always liked to come in and talk about what she was working on and say, a troll showed up in my writing. I didn't know there were trolls in this world, but he just showed up and he was really charming and interesting. And that's a way that you'll hear Discovery writers talk. As they're discovering their story and exploring their world, almost like they're someone who's been sucked into this world and going for a stroll. And then they'll do revisions later on to make that Discovery written things feel natural and to involve the proper promises and things like that. As an architect, as an outline writer like myself, there is much less of that sense. I always like to feel I'm in control of a story. But, at the same time, I do like to have enough flexibility to let myself extrapolate when something is really working and make that part of the story when it wasn't planned.
Brent Worthington says, at one point I remember it being said that Roshar, Scadrial, and Sel are the three most important worlds in the Cosmere, but I can't remember if that was ever canonized, much less if it's still the case.
I would say that they are the most important, yes. Depends on how you count Yolen, right? Where it all started. But I would say they are the pillars. Those narratives, those book series are the pillars of how I envisioned the Cosmere. And so, yes. But, there's lots of... As soon as there are lots of worlds that are important, and there are plenty of them that we haven't gone to yet. I often talk about the Aethers, which are really relevant to the future of the Cosmere, but I have not managed to get them in a book about them yet. So it will happen.
Cyanide engineer. That's an interesting engineering degree. What aspect of your writing are you most proud of? Similarly, what aspect of your writing are you currently working on improving?
What aspect am I most proud of? I would say, if you just write today, I would say a different thing another day probably. My flexibility as a writer, my ability to do a lot of different things and to be pretty good at all of them. What am I most interested in improving upon? These days, it's making sure that I am not repeating myself. As I move further into the Cosmere, I do not want to be falling into too many of the same old tropes that were fresh and interesting when I was a new author, and then become tired and worn as I move into, this stage of my career. Yeah.
I just want to welcome back Broken Red Flag, who just said that they're back.
Oh,
So
good.
welcome.
Welcome back. We were really missing you.
Yes,
so.
it was noticed. Sapphire Bombay wants to know if Yasna is left-handed, and if so, did that play a role in her perceptions of how women are treated on Roshar?
So left-handed people become ambidextrous. Left-handed women become very ambidextrous kind of are forced to learn to use their non-dominant hand on Roshar. I will have to give it some thought whether Yasna is left-handed or was originally left-handed. It seems like it would totally fit her. And I don't think I've mentioned any lefties. I actually get emails now and then from people being like, "Hey, can we know who's a lefty in the Cosmere?" So I think that it is something on my radar to canonize some lefties, but I'm not going to do that now. So.
Okay. Aussie Nick 1999 says, is there anything that non-religious writers often get wrong when writing religious characters? I'm currently writing a book with a devoutly religious protagonist, but I am not religious myself, and I don't want to create a stereotypical character.
Nice. I'm glad that you asked this. From my perspective, I would say that I have met very few zealots. I have met very few people, even being in a large religious community full of religious people who what I consider very devout. I've met very few zealots. I know very few zealots. I know very few people who do not, at times, ask the questions, the hard questions, who don't talk about the hard questions, and that sort of thing. And so you can be extremely devout and also be somebody who questions and doesn't feel guilty about doing so. I find that a lot of representation of religious people is, if they ever even question a little bit, they feel like this deep and abiding shame, right? Whereas a lot of the people I know, if you talk about myself, I'd be like, I wonder. Oh, well, maybe that'll get figured out someday. I'll think more on that. You know what I mean? Like, that happens a lot more than what you're saying, or not what you're saying, but than the real, like, religious zealot who never thinks about anything else. The other thing to remember is that religious communities are not, even within a very, a religion with a strict hierarchy, every person I know believes a slightly different version of the religion that we follow. And that is just human nature. There are some parts of the religion that I'm just like, you know what? I don't really think that's a thing, right? Like, and others that pick different things are like, you know what? I just don't think that's actually a thing. Even in a religion with a strict hierarchy like this, like the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I've talked about before that I think a lot of stuff in the Old Testament is interesting stories that people wrote about things that happened and are not accurate to what actually happened. That is the only way I can reconcile the God that I worship with some of the things that happened in the Old Testament. I think that is not a common opinion among our community, but I don't think I would be the only one who has that opinion. I think it would be, yeah. So anyway, there's a couple things to know about religious communities, right? Like, I have written the Zealot before. It's a fun archetype to write, but there aren't actually, at least that I know, that many like that. So.
Sorry. Just talking with Kellen. So, Moderator says, is Evgeny your favorite 17th Shard member, and why?
That is definitely a Rapho.
Evgeny says, okay, fine, I'll upvote this, but just once.
Definitely a Rapho. I'm fond of all the members of the 17th Shard. They are all, they're a very nice crowd. 17th Shard basically started because two of my students got married. So I'm very fond of that aspect of it. And I believe the proposal happened in my class. And they were both friends of mine who met because of interest in my work and started attending my class. And I have made many good friends around that community. So thumbs up. I like them all, but let's just say that Evgeny did not propose to anyone in my class, so that is a mark against him.
Yeah, I don't know how he can recover.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Don Donson says, hey, Brandon, for Stormlight Archive, how do you decide which characters are going to be your flashback POVs in which book? For example, I believe you almost had Zeth in the flashback character in book 3 and Dalinar in book 5.
Yes.
If you had chosen Zeth, wouldn't that have probably meant that book 3 would have had a much different story, or do the story elements, themes influence who you want to devote the flashback
Right.
towards?
The reason I didn't do Zeth is because the story that I was building did not match as well as Dalinar, right? Like, yes, if I had chosen Zeth, the story would have changed, though not as much as you're probably imagining. It just means that, like, having the flashback for the characters, I can theme those flashbacks around points in the main characters' lives. Like, I could have done Dalinar's flashbacks around the events that are happening in Book 5 and could have themed them that way. I don't think it would have been as good, which is why I decided not to do it. I think it is better this way. But that's the only one that's really been on the fence for me. So I picked them based on my expectations of where the narrative is going to go, and then when I sit down to write the book, the actual place that the narrative has been going does change my decisions. So that's one of the big swaps that I've made, and so yeah.
Not only, going back to Evgeny, not only did he not propose to anyone in class, but he's asking Wing Racer to fight him in the chat.
Oh,
so
wow. Well,
2 marks against him.
No, that's a good thing. And we like that Evgeny's a fighter.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. He can be a fighter and a lover. This is okay.
Okay. Loose Theron Telescope.
Yes. Hello, Loose Theron Telescope. I'm sorry I have not been on Reddit as often lately. My social media interaction has kind of moved to YouTube recently. I answer far fewer, so I don't know how many messages you've sent me on Reddit that I haven't answered, but I apologize for that. Same thing goes for David, who sends me. I do go in, David, if you're here, I do go in and see the messages you send me when you send them. And I've gotten several from you because I actually have a little filter set up on my computer that lets me know when a message comes from you, because David sends me very nice things that I really like. And so I have gone and read those, but it's been in a different reader, and so I don't as often respond as I would like to. So if you happen to be here, I have been getting your messages, but Luz, Thera, and Telescope, I have not actually been getting yours.
They say Way of Kings is kind of a from-scratch reimagining of one of your unpublished books.
Yes.
Which we now call Way of Kings Prime.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to reimagine one of your published books from the ground up in such a way, not just rewrite the existing book,
Yes.
which would it be and why?
It would obviously be Elantris, right? Because Elantris was written before I designed the Cosmere, and then was retrofitted to the Cosmere. But even when I was retrofitting it to the Cosmere, when I had the full Cosmere was when I had done the outline of the Mistborn Trilogy, which I was doing as Elantris was going through publication. And things like the shard pools, like I had this cool pool in Elantris, no idea what that relation was to the rest of the Cosmere, right? And things like that. And it was when I sat down and really built the Mistborn Trilogy that it all kind of, I built it all. And so Mistborn was written knowing what the Cosmere was. Elantris was not. And so I can imagine an interesting reimagining of Elantris that, yeah. The other thing that I might do is reimagine the Arithmetist to be a standalone that very clearly makes it clear to everyone that there will be no more books, so that I could not have spent the last 10 years promising people a sequel that I've never been able to get to.
I just want to take a quick point away from Just a Girl in the YouTube chat,
yeah.
who once again brought up me singing.
Oh, yes.
I've seen this in several chats, so 10 points. I'm going to take 10
10
points
points away.
from Just a Girl.
Oh, wow. Welcome
Sorry, I hate
to
to be
Brandon's
brutal.
stream, where the points don't matter. I do wish we could,
It would be fun to have
Yeah.
a point system.
Yeah,
I know
to have-
Twitch, you can do like bits and stuff like that.
yeah, but those go too, it would be fun to
Yeah.
be able to, like,
But
on
you can
the-
do like wagers and stuff with them. You can do
Yeah.
interesting things with
Mhm,
it.
if you could be like, here's a bunch of bits for you, or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, YouTube, get on that. Let us give people custom titles, and things like that in our chats.
So I want to ask you a question. I'm going to try and make it not spoiler.
Okay, good.
So I'm going to take names away. But in your most recent Stormlight book, there was a character that came out as Ace.
Yes.
Or I should say, you wrote the character as Ace. I just wanted to know if you could talk
Yes,
through that.
about writing Ace.
Yes.
So, I knew that this is not a spoiler. I feel like this is there. This is there in the text, even though I wasn't 100% sure where I was going or how to pull it off. I think I was laying the groundwork for this character, and I was not completely sold. Let's be perfectly honest. The members of the Ace community who were fans were suggesting that this is how I was writing the character, and I did not want to canonize it till I had the right scene from this character's eyes to make it work. And when I really sat down to do this, I tried the character several ways, and this is the way that felt right to me. I've often said that until I write from a character's viewpoint, that I don't really know. And I had done viewpoints from this character before, at least one, maybe a couple, but I hadn't talked about their sexuality at all. And I explore the world through the eyes of my characters. And this was an exploration that really worked and kind of helped me understand the world and people in the way that I really like characters to do for me. That's part of why I did it. And so that is, like, I was holding off on talking about this character's sexuality until the right moment. And then I tried multiple different things. And this is the one that just really sang to me. And it wasn't until, like, people encouraged me to try it. And I'm glad that they did, because once I did, they were right. and it worked real well. So thank you to members of the ACE community who are fans of the books, and I feel like the character locked into place better for me once I understood enough to try writing this way.
So, H. Jard, yeah, I'm not going to say it. What books do you return to when you're in a reading slump?
Pratchett.
No.
Yeah.
I should have just guessed that one.
Pretty obvious. Return, read some Pratchett. Once in a while, Wheel of Time works for me. Like, I really enjoyed reading Eye of the World again when I was doing the story for Unfettered 3 that I was working on, which is likely to be the last piece of Wheel of Time fiction that I ever work on. It was really nice to go back and just enjoy Robert Jordan's prose again, because it's so wonderful.
Cobear25 says, when you work on your second and third drafts, do you just go through it from start to finish, finding things to improve as you read, or is your process a bit more complicated?
Just a bit more complicated. So second draft is what you just said. I'm looking for things to improve. I'm taking notes for myself. Generally, in first draft, I've already taken a bunch of notes on things that need to improve, and then I execute those in second draft and also watch for new ones. Third draft is when someone else has read the book and I have had time away from the book to come back to it fresh. And so part of me is doing that, but part of me is trying to fix problems. Generally, third draft, I've gotten my writing group on the book, and sometimes my editor and people like that. And I'm more aware of the book's weaker points because of the things that I've done through workshopping. And I will generally third draft then try to address those. And if that addressing of those works, then great. Sometimes it doesn't. On Cytonic, it didn't, right? And so the next draft on Cytonic, different book there.
Yes.
Ooh, that'd be a really cool title for some sort of, like mixing psychic and satanic, right, into some sort of.
Sounds like you're describing Kathy.
Yeah. Sounds like I'm describing your cat, actually.
Oh, well, no, she's only half of that.
Yeah. But yeah, someone should write that pulp, the satanic pulp novel. Yeah, there's some sort of cool exploitation novel you could write about that. But on Cytonic, we had this issue where the fixes that I tried actually didn't work, and had to try something completely different that then did end up working. But that doesn't happen that often, but it happened very recently, which is interesting.
So I saw a comment from Facebook from Casey. I can't pronounce her last name. I apologize, Casey. But they were talking about how much they love Pratchett, and they say Pratchett would probably be a fan of yours. I know you never met him. Do you know if he ever read any of your works?
I don't know that he ever read any of my work. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I would love to think that he would have been, but I don't know. I think that I did get to see him at a convention once, and it was delightful because Neil Gaiman was there too. It was before I was published. And they were just delightful on panels, separately and together. And they were signing copies of Good Omens where one would make up the front half of a joke. I've told this story before. And the second one had to finish the joke, but they would just make it up, right? And so you could get your book signed by both of them with that joke in it. And I wish I had one of those. I was not willing to wait in the line at the time, because I was not the enormous Pratchett fan at that point in my life that I became.
And Casey just told me how to pronounce her last name, and it is Callahan. This looks very Irish, and I never would have guessed that. So thank you, Casey Callahan. And I apologize for not knowing how to read your name.
Ireland is one of those countries
It's one of those
I've never been to, but I would really like to.
Please tell me if you are Irish. I would be very curious.
Oh, I thought you said.
It
you said
looks
looks
Irish,
Irish.
yeah.
Right. Now you
Gaelic,
might
whatever
you
it
might
is.
be you might be in real trouble.
Yes.
You could. This could be Welsh, and you have just
That's
made
true.
an enormous mistake.
1 point away from Adam. Okay. Kryzen Moon 23 says, what was your inspiration for Dabbit? Is Dabbit based off someone in your life? As a person who was born in the same way and have a very similar struggles as Dabbit, I cried tears of joy reading his chapter. Thank you for the wonderful words you put on paper.
So Dabbit came from a couple of sources. One is just reading some first-hand accounts of people who have lived life such as him. This is the sort of thing that I look for and love to read, is first-hand accounts of life experience that can help me understand the world and other people better. All three of my children would not be alive if we did not have modern medicine. All three of them had complications of birth that were not trivial to deal with, even kind of for modern. I mean, they were nothing really bad, right? But like all three of them would have died either during birth or shortly thereafter. And so it is something that I think about. And for one of them, the cord was wrapped around his neck. And they only, noticed this because when Emily would push, the baby had a big heart rate change that they're like, whoa, stop, something is really wrong. And without modern medicine, that's Joel, my eldest, would not be alive. And I think about these sorts of things quite a bit. So it's kind of a mix of those two things.
So Comrade Harold says, if Shalon had married into Vaden royalty, would she have taken on the family surname?
So if she had moved into royalty,
Vaden royalty.
right? I don't think the Vadens take last names. I think that is in the wiki. I don't think that you change your name when you're Vaden and you're marrying, regardless. So it might be different for the royal family, but my gut says no. But this is not stuff that's in the books, so I'm out on a limb here. So if I've just said something that is contradicted by the books, I'm sorry. I don't have Karen looking over my shoulder, but
Yeah,
I don't
so-
believe Vadens take each other's last names.
So not to go on to the words of Brandon.
Oh, it can go on the
Oh,
words of
can it?
Brandon.
Okay.
Words of Brandon are superseded by text of books.
Okay.
As always, I'm totally happy with you guys collecting these words of Brandon, and as long as you understand that I reserve the right to change these things, right? And to tweak things, and like it's entirely possible, referencing an earlier question, that I will get to an entire section where I need to write about the streets that that Lift grew up on, and I will change my mind and be like, all right, you know what? We're going to use starvin' as a word that they all use. It's entirely possible. I don't think it will be. I think that's a Lift thing, and I think it's if you were to go there, you would see all the other people using different sorts of language, and Lift still just having her own weird little thing she's doing. She's weird even among them, right? But it's not impossible that I will change my mind, right? Like until it's in the books, it is up for change. And that is just something that I need to have as my right as an author, because making a great story supersedes sitting and telling people stuff on YouTube streams. So I'm sorry if that bothers you, that, man, it's not canon, what he's saying. It can be canon until I contradict it. How about that?
It's canon until it's not.
Yes.
Another one from Kuroin Faruno, however you pronounce that. It's just, that one's a mouthful as well. The Kelsier Fortnite reveal was pure hype.
Yes.
Can we expect some surprises of that caliber in the coming months?
I can't promise whether there will be or won't be. That was a very unique sort of surprise that when one of your good friends is the director of Fortnite, odd things sometimes happen. It was going to be Dallin putting a turtle onto the island that is indestructible and wandered around. It's my son Dallin who was trying to get, and we could never get Dallin pinned down on what he actually wanted the turtle to be. And so eventually he's just like, I just want to put Kelsier in. Can I put Kelsier in? So there's Kelsier. I hope that they do Vin. We'll see.
That would be awesome.
Yep.
So, the Sunny One says, I've been rereading the earlier Cosmere titles recently, and I was wondering, are we ever likely to see full world maps for these locations?
Yes, probably during next age, or next era. So like, once we get to modern era and their mapping technology is kind of to a modern equivalent, you'll start seeing full world maps. I'd love to do globes. I don't know how much interest there is in, like a Roshar globe, but I want to do that for years.
That would be very cool. I wonder. Yeah. Maybe a future poll. We'll find out. That's
they're just really
way down the road. Yeah.
Weird and hard to make. I've talked to Kara about it, and she's like, I have no idea how we would do this. Maybe.
Did you ever see the video floating around on Reddit a while ago? It's probably floated around several times, but it's from like the 50s, and it's old school globe making processes.
No, I haven't.
It's very satisfying to watch.
The one I actually want first is we have in my theater the back on the back wall is a giant map of Earth with all sorts of fantasy places highlighted instead of real. Like there's a few touchstone, like I think Tokyo is on there and stuff, a few touchstone, but most of it is like, here's Shangri-La and here's Oz and, stuff like that. That I would love to make a map of that eventually, or a globe, where you've got your globe and like, oh, it's an Earth globe. Wait a minute. Los Angeles isn't listed on here for some reason, but El Dorado is, stuff like that.
Wart Galore from the YouTube chat says they hate globes, and I have some unfortunate news for him. 90 says, did Adonosium leave a cognitive shadow, and if so, has Hoyd spoken to it?
Raffo, good question.
Yeah, we're getting to the...
there's an enormous Raffo. Yes.
Now everyone is just saying give globes.
That's what to think about.
Wild Hogs 2013 says, have you read any of... well, you already answered this, but have you read any of the Wheel of Time Season 2 scripts? Love your books. Can't wait for Wax and Wayne 4.
Yes, I have read some Season 2 scripts.
There you are, Wild Hogs.
I can say nothing about them. Yep. I have been asked by Rafe to just be, to keep everyone's attention on Season 1. And I really like Rafe, and so I like to do what Rafe says. Rafe puts up with a lot of snark from me, by the way. Someday you guys should ask him, because I try to write the things the Wheel of Time fans are going to say, and I know the Wheel of Time fans have a bit of snark to them. And so he puts up with my responses. Sometimes I'm like, should I write that? Oh, it's to Rafe. I'll write it. So he puts up with a lot of snark.
Luna Evergreen says, is there any part of your fans that surprise you? Like, wow, I didn't expect these people to like my books.
No, I've never been surprised. Like, I learned early in my college career that my preconceptions about what people like and dislike is, those sort of preconceptions serve no purpose, and indeed are a hindrance to understanding the world. And so I have tried very hard to abandon them. Though one of my favorite stories is about Jane, Adam's wife, who is my sister, going to one of my signings. And for anyone who has met Jane, Jane is, what was her job?
She was a personal stylist.
Personal stylist, that's the word, at Nordstrom. She is extremely trendy. She dresses very, very nice, and also she's just great. But she is not your archetypal science fiction fantasy reader. And she was there with one of her friends who would be similarly stereotyped in a similar way at one of my signings. And someone walked up, and what they say? They're like, "Are you lost? Do you understand?" Or they're talking about, "Yeah, you don't understand this author's here." And she's like, "I've read all of his books. I'm his sister." And she was kind of laughingly offended, because Jane never gets really offended. But at the same time, you can tell it's like, why judge that someone like trendy would not be reading? Yeah, I try not to do that. What was the original question before I went off on that?
Are you surprised?
Am I surprised? I am sometimes surprised by things about the fandom. I was surprised by how much people can guess. Like, we did a thing way back with Wheel of Time where I was on the road a lot, and you guys remember this? Some of you, a lot of fans probably don't even remember this because they weren't around. What I was doing is I would hide things in airports and in books, stores and whatnot that were envelopes that had clues about the upcoming book, and things like that. And it was a really fun sort of game I played with Wheel of Time fandom. But one of the things that we were doing during that time was revealing the chapter titles of the Wheel of Time books, which are also always very evocative and interesting. By the way, Harriet came up with the majority of those. Emily actually kind of took up that role in the Stormlight Archive, and a lot of the chapter titles in the Stormlight Archive were named by her. Though most of them are quotes from the chapters, she picks what they are. Regardless, we were using these chapters, and we had a website where, once a chapter, a code word or a chapter title was unlocked, some bit of lore, or I think a little section from a chapter, also became unlocked. And Wheel of Time fans decided to brute force guessing what the chapter titles would be. And they weren't using bots or anything. They were just trying to guess using the names of previous chapters and likely words that could be recombined into chapters. And you would think they have a 1 in a million chance. But they got like half of them just by doing this. They had a big website where they coordinated. And they're like, here are the most common words in Wheel of Time chapters. Here are words that are probably common in this book because we know some of what's happening in this book. Let's see if we can figure out what the chapters are. And they did. And that one shocked me, right? Because I knew they weren't just brute force botting it because I could see the behind the scenes stuff. They were trying real guesses, and we let them because that's cool that they were doing this. And man, so that level of fandom surprised me, even having been a fan. So those sorts of things still surprise me.
And I just want to say hello to our French fan, our French watcher, whose name is on the chat that I'm not going to try and pronounce.
Okay.
They feel very weird being one of the only French people around because it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
So, 4 a.m.
Good luck waking up whenever you do. I hope you get to sleep in.
Man, I miss France. Haven't been now too
yeah.
long, COVID. I miss getting a nice croissant. You just cannot get a croissant anywhere else that is the same.
See, and for me, it's the baguettes.
Yeah.
I want to wake up and I want to
Yeah.
eat a baguette with some just meat and cheese.
Yeah.
That's like my favorite kind of breakfast.
My favorite kind of breakfast is a full English breakfast. You could probably guess that from me, but I like a big, hearty, I usually don't eat breakfast, so if I'm going to, it needs to be awesome. And so give me that thick English bacon and yeah.
Well, now it's turned into a contest in the chat for the lateness of the morning or early of the morning. Oathkeeper says it's 5:20 in Greece.
Oh.
So good morning.
Greece is also on my short list of countries I would love to visit and have never been able to.
So everyone tell me what time it is where you are,
Yes.
if it's interesting.
8:22 isn't interesting to you, Adam?
That is the most interesting time to me, actually. It is 8:22. Now Brandon
8:22.
is, yep.
8 minutes until we will be done. Probably this stack is our last stack.
Did you want to finish it or just stop at 8:30?
We'll see. We'll see
Okay.
how I'm feeling.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Are we running to the dregs of the questions?
We are.
Yes. So, see what you can find or pull one out from the chat.
Yep, I've been trying to do that a little bit. Ooh. Oh, 8:22 in Calgary. I was thinking 8:22 a.m.
Ooh, Calgary.
Calgary doesn't count.
Calgary has good steaks. I enjoyed my time in Calgary.
Someone just said 7:22. These are all just local times.
Hey,
Everyone's tricking me.
What were you expecting?
Oh, Taiwan. That's what I was
Oh.
looking for. So 10:23 a.m.
Oh, hey.
is the stuff I was looking for.
Who's in Taiwan that's watching? Watching, is it Fiki or one of our friends from Taiwan?
Yayi Lin.
Okay.
There she is.
I miss
Everyone
Taiwan.
say hi.
Boy, I miss Din Tai Fung. We need Din Tai Fung to come to Salt Lake.
Oh,
They're
my
so
word.
close. They're in Vegas, but that's still like 7-hour drive, or is it
That's
5?
like 5.5 or 6.
5 or yeah, like that's still just a little too far to go to only get Din Tai Fung, right? So come on, just a little bit further. They can do it. They've got Seattle, they've got LA, they've got Vegas. Just a little bit further.
12:30 in Australia.
Ooh,
So
g'day.
yeah, good. I might. There it is.
I did not
Okay.
try to do the accent, I will point out.
That's one of the few accents I can do passively to non-Australians.
Yes.
But as soon as I do it to an Australian, I'm sure I would be mocked, as I should be, for sounding like a moron.
One of my favorite things with Australians is to spread an enormous slather of Vegemite on a toast and say, "Oh, I've heard that this stuff is good. You put it on like peanut butter, right?" And then take a bite. They are horrified and worried. I know what I'm doing. I'm just joking with you when I do that. But.
Okay, so Use the Falchian says, "Hello, Brandon and team. Putting my question here as well as in the YouTube chat. Wondering about a mainframe release schedule.
Yes. Right now we are focused on the Skyward novellas, which are going to come out with the ebooks. We're doing ebook and audiobook together on this one, just because it's an ongoing series, and I felt kind of locking those behind audiobook is not as appropriate as it was with something like Lux, where it was being created specifically because, like, I wasn't planning to write that book, but for the audio. So the things that we're mainly working on now is Dark One, the novelization with Dan Wells, and that's kind of the once we get the Skyward ones done, then that kind of our attention turns to that. Dan actually just sent in a first draft of something he's been working on related to that I told him I would read before October, once Wax and Wayne revision is done. So I'm excited by that, but first I want to keep eyes on these Skyward releases, because they're really going to determine what we're able to do in the future in this realm. Because the publisher is putting a lot into them and is worried, like I said earlier, about the release schedule that I have asked them to use. So, there you go. Those are the main things, and I think that, and then Legion, Death and Faxes, is the last of our first group of mainframe projects, and that one we have a draft of also. So.
Okay, sorry. Went down a little rabbit hole right there. Very nice name, 16. That is a very nice name. Do you ever plan to update the Knights Radiant quiz when we've seen all the orders in the books?
Yeah, I could imagine us doing that once you've seen all the orders. But we used a lot of information from me and my wiki and my knowledge of those orders to make those. But the orders could tweak as I write them, so it's totally possible that we will change things. That would take quite a while because, it's basically saying by book 10 we will probably maybe have changed some of these. So yeah, so it's a while off.
So it seems like we're getting to the lore questions.
Yeah.
And I told them that I would not ask you the lore questions.
Yep. So where are we?
It's 8:27. It's probably
8:27?
as...
We need to give them their full extra 3 minutes.
3 more minutes?
We need to give them their 3 minutes. So you can just ask me a question you're interested in, Adam.
Oh, man. Let's see.
Yes.
Putting me on the spot like that, I'm so used to asking other people's questions.
Yes.
How does it end, just in general?
Oh yeah. How does it end? Well.
Well, I completely
You
believe
know,
you
that
when you
would have
say
been
that.
a perfect time to have me go, well, and then you cut the stream.
Well, retake?
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is live. So I'll point out, thanks for everybody who's been enjoying Intentionally Blank. We've been putting a lot of work behind the scenes into Intentionally Blank, and recently a lot of people have been enjoying it. Our views have gone up over the last few weeks. People seem to be enjoying Dan and Brandon talk about random pop culture things. So if you're watching this and you haven't tried the last few episodes of Intentionally Blank, I think we're kind of finding our footing and figuring out what it is that we want to do with this podcast, and I hope you guys will enjoy it. So.
And just like you can see on the screen, Salvo Skull Street says Intentionally Blank is great, and I trust their opinion.
We will have a fairly big announcement on Monday, correct? Yes, that I'm going to record right after this.
Correct. Yes.
We will have a fairly big announcement relating to Cytonic and how to get signed books and that sort of stuff. So if you've been like, how do we do our thing with the thing and what's going on with the other thing, and Brandon, when are we doing a release party and stuff like that? Well, little preview, Monday is when you will find out about all of that. It may or may involve the presence of Doomslug plushies. So,
Gasps.
So anyway, I think we will call it there, everybody. Thank you guys. Is our next stream, Adam, the Halloween stream, or are we adding an extra Halloween stream? Are you gonna do one?
We can discuss that.
Okay.
So to be determined.
To be determined. So.
Or
all
we
right.
can just make the November stream happen late October.
Yeah,
Not do one in November.
maybe
Because
do
we're
that,
going to be
'cause
doing a release party
actually,
in November. So
I'll also be in Hawaii.
Oh, yes.
So then we will have an October stream, and then we'll have we'll just say now, we'll probably first or second week of October we'll do one, and then we'll do one for Halloween that is going to be opening up fan mail. So
Awesome deal.
in costume, be excited. My sister is making me a cool costume.
Yes, and I don't know how you're going to outdo last year's. So to be seen. Anyway, thanks everybody.